Hello, this is Dominic from the Jack and Dom Radio Show, a weekly sports radio program, and although we broadcast on professional hardware, we do record our show mostly on my laptop, and sometimes I don't press record right when we start. Some shows will start right in the middle of a topic. Regardless, this show is a work of love and passion for sports with raw and transparent opinions between the two of us. So I hope you all enjoy. Okay, this is the Jack and Dom Radio Show. Jack, how are you doing this evening?
I'm pretty okay. How about you?
Pretty okay. Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Halloween was pretty exciting. A lot of people complimented my my costume. Now, knowing that I follow you on social media, I have some questions.
Do you now?
I have some questions, and considering that we are in a cancel culture world, I think you offended some people with your costume.
Did I offend the Smurfs?
Yeah, the Smurfs, the Smurfs that are out there are very upset. They said on social media that you should be canceled. You should be kicked off the show, kicked out of the school. And then I don't know. I'm just making this up as I go. What were you?
The idea. I was Megamind.
Oh,
I made all the memes come true, Dom.
I didn't know you were Megamind. Megamind has a big head.
And I don't.
No.
Okay. That's your worst. That's the worst attempt.
I didn't know what you were
made on this show. Anyway,
for those curious who I was, I took an old iMac from like the mid 2000s and turned it into a helmet with like LED lights. You've seen it.
I have. Great.
And yeah, and like I would be walking down Jamrich and like be like some like athletes who are like on the track and field would like come in like, no, can we take a picture? Can we take a picture? And
I had people take pictures.
Those that was cool. That was so cool.
You and I won Halloween.
And
that's clear.
And I never saw any of those photos. So anyway, yeah, the opinions said in the show do not reflect the opinions said in the show do not represent the opinions of this radio station or the university. That being said, good evening, everyone. We're going to be talking about all kinds of spicy thing. Well, I don't know.
Let's start with the
hot things.
Part.
Yeah. NMU football loses again for the 20th time in a row. This is what it says on my show sheet. Got smacked by number 2 Daddy Ferris State 55-9. Considering that the amount of times we'll have our programs suffer against Ferris State and Grand Valley, I think calling him Daddy would be appropriate for once.
Where to even start with this one? I'm told a good friend of mine in the band, told me that on one of their first touchdowns, NMU was so confused as to where the ball was that the Ferris State player started dancing his way to the end zone. And I mean, like, dancing. Like, he showboated from the 50, like, the way. Because NMU had no idea what was going on.
So, what Ferris basically, their game plan was, like, if they start on their 20, maybe do a run play or two, kind of shuffle it around a little bit and then throw deep for, like, a 50-yard gain. Because they know their running backs, especially if they run the routes right, can open up big passing windows down the field and get it of what looks like a cheap 50-yard gain.
Not only that,
rinse and repeat. They've done that. They did that multiple times, and multiple times they throw it deep, get a touchdown.
Right, and I mean you're playing against the worst secondary, the Giliags, so like throw it up all you want because the NMU corners are just not.
It's like playing on rookie and Madden.
Right, the NMU corners and safeties are not equipped to play against guys that are top of the D2 ladder, most of whom will likely get some of their better players will probably get some D1 NIL offers come next season.
Someone on Ferris might go to the NFL. I don't know.
Right,
maybe.
That could happen. They got a good shot at winning the D2 national championship.
Yep.
So we had no chance.
And someone, I don't know who, we don't know who this was. Someone was wearing a paper bag over their head.
As they should. Here's a question for you.
I'm surprised it finally took this long. You'd think it happened earlier.
But here's a question for you.
Yeah.
I know you care a lot more about like the Lions than you do NMU football.
Sure.
And as you should, because it's the Lions.
I still remember the 08 Lions.
Right, but all things equal, if you cared as much about NMU football as you did the Detroit Lions, is 0-16, and I want to say we went 1-15 either the year before or the year after. It wasn't pretty, right?
No, it wasn't pretty at all.
I think it was 1-15 the year before, the year after. I think it was the year after. I was 4, so you may know better than I do. If you want to look that up, feel free. But so that was 1-31 in 2 years. I think the Browns did that for sure.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
I think the Lions came very close to that. Or did that. Is that worse than going 0-12? You also have to keep in mind that in the Browns' case,
yes, because all the players are getting paid.
That is
true. To do a job,
more incentive. Yeah.
More incentive. It's a bigger market.
Is supposed to be better.
Yeah, it's a bigger market. It's higher prestige. It's a bigger embarrassment.
Well, yeah, I think as a fan, it's worse too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think though. Like, I think the other reason why it's worse is, in theory, NMU can hit the transfer portal. It can rebuild. I will be shocked if we don't have a new coaching staff by next year. I mean, I will utterly be shocked.
Yes. Same here.
So point is, they're going to rebuild. The difference is, though, in the NFL, when you continually whiff on draft picks like the Browns did for those first couple of years until they finally hit on Myles Garrett and a couple other guys, sort of got back to mediocrity and then got Deshaun and went straight back down to ground zero.
Yeah.
But point is, the amount of draft picks in a row that they missed, like, that seems worse to me because you're jeopardizing your future versus NMU. If you get a new coach that's going to build a culture and you start recruiting at a better level, you haven't necessarily jeopardized your future.
Yeah. And speaking of culture, you weren't at the game, were you?
Oh, thank God, no.
Okay,
I can't watch this crap
Well,
anymore.
it's the last home game. It was senior day, and I mean, one of the silver linings, one of the positives I do want to talk about, because it was senior day, a friend of mine and former neighbor, meaning, I live in the hall, a guy who lives down the hall. Xavier is his name. Very good friend of mine and walk-on to the team. He was when the first year I was here, he was on my flag football team.
Oh, cool.
Now, maybe by mine, I was just a punter.
Right.
But he was super fast. Like, there were times I'd throw it and just throw it to him. Like, it would be like a short pass, and he's so fast he'd run down the field for a touchdown.
Nice.
He's that fast. And during walk-on tryouts, he got on the team. It turns out he played high school for 4 years, so he has experience. He earned his spot, and he got recognized. That's super cool, Xavier. If you're listening to this, good job. Hey, at least, I want to say something good about the football team before I tear them down again. Speaking of which, I was operating the audio for the game, and so I got to see, obviously, the entire field, including our sideline, and probably another 1,000 people got to see the drama that was told to me off the record that was happening in the locker room finally boil over into the sidelines. Now I can finally say, like, that it's no longer speculation, that there's no longer, like a grain of salt. You take my statements with a grain of salt because it's hearsay, or whatever, or I'm getting statements from off the record from football players. No, like, we actually saw players and coaches yell and scream at each other, like there's heat between everybody, and for everyone to see, there were like 1,000. There were 1,000 people there, to see all of it. A lot of parents too, because it's senior day. Yeah, the morale of the team's gone. And the conflict and bad vibes that was initially contained in the locker room, now we can see it.
Right, and I think it's been gone for a hot minute. I just think you now see it spill out onto the field. Which is honestly really, really unfortunate.
It's like losing containment in a nuclear power plant. Like,
pretty much.
Like, uranium is starting to
starting to cause a fire in the building, and it's starting to spread everywhere. We got a Chernobyl situation.
Yeah, it's a disaster. This program has not been in a place like this ever.
And I have a friend who last year quit the team. He's still a student, but he does all online classes, so you won't see him here. But yeah, he told me like, it was a problem in the locker room, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, which is understandable.
But he predicted this like a year in advance. It's kind of crazy.
It's unfortunate when you have a struggling program and the culture is a problem, because culture is supposed to be where you start.
Yes.
Right? Like the hockey team is struggling, but I see them actively going out in the community and having the Blue Line luncheon, having like a green carpet thing before the Tech game, like participating in those ASNMU Halloween events before the game, and like being very open with fans. Mm-hmm. Like, they're trying very hard to build a culture and get involved in the Marquette.
Considering that, only 3-4 players are from last year?
Right. There's, like, one player, I think, from last year. He was redshirted. He's not the captain. Okay. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
So I thought maybe, like, 2 or 3 more.
Maybe there were a couple.
I don't know the names.
It's Tanner Latch was one from last year, but he was redshirted. I don't know if it was because of injury or...
Okay.
But he's the captain now, and there might be a couple others. But a lot of these guys are not from the Marquette area. There's maybe 3 or 4 of them that are.
Yeah.
A lot of them are from like Canada, and even a couple of them are from either other colleges or outside the U.S. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the point is, like, you are getting them involved in the community. You are building a culture. All his press conferences are like, we're doing team building with the guys. We're letting them get to know each other. We want them to play as a team. We want to be like one culture. We want to work together. Right? Like, all I hear in his press conferences is like this positivity of like, we know it's going to be a rebuilding year, but we want to take this rebuilding year and build a culture. And then once you have a culture, you can start figuring out how you want to play, and then you can start competing, right? Mm-hmm. Even from the start, but now especially, I never really got that vibe from the football team. It's always like, well, we didn't play well this week. We'll execute better next week. We've got a better game plan for next week.
Both teams are F tier for completely 2 different reasons.
Well,
would that be fair to say?
Hockey is fair to be F tier.
Yeah.
Like, they should be an F tier. This is to be expected.
Yeah. But for completely different reasons.
Honestly, I put them in a made-up, because you think this tier doesn't exist, E tier.
Well, because it's not part of the American grading system.
Yeah, but I still think there should be one in this case. It's like, you're not
D-.
F. Fine, D-. You're not F because you were supposed to be there. But anyway, back to the football team. Like, when I watch their like press conferences, like when they've done them like the last every 2-3 weeks, last couple of years, couple weeks. They've even done them weekly. Like they post them on the NMU, I think it's the NMU athletics page, and they do like the football, basketball, hockey. I think they have like the lacrosse coach. I think they had the swim and dive coach on there, like a couple other ones. But the hockey team is always like, we're working together, we're impressed with our guys, like, we're just trying to get some experience because, like, these guys are freshmen. But the football team is always like, well, our game plan was a little off. Well, we just didn't play up to what we were expecting.
Yeah.
Well, the opponent was just really unpredictable. Oh, the turnovers. Oh, this, oh, that. Like, it's just a different atmosphere. And I feel like, when you say the play calling is a problem, you're sort of taking responsibility. But, like, at the same time, when you're saying, like, oh, we didn't execute, oh, there were a lot of turnovers, throws just weren't there, like, that seems dependent on the players rather than, like, hey, this is my fault.
Yeah.
And even if he says that it's his fault, like, if he's yelling at players in the locker room, like, and if players are pushing on the sidelines and, like, getting into fights...
It didn't get into fights.
Well, like, getting close to a fight.
It was getting close to it. Like, happening. You could see it.
You can kind of come to the conclusion that there was likely fighting outside of it.
Yeah.
But when you have that kind of vibe, even a bad team, like, don't get me wrong, bad teams, like, have low morale, and, like, things are going wrong. But when a coach on a bad team owns up to things and vows to fix things and focuses on culture, and, like, takes responsibility... Right? You might still suck for the next couple of years and things might not work out, but the atmosphere is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you go out there, you give it your 110%, and you're trying to win. This team looks like it's given up, which tells me that, and I don't blame them for giving up, by the way, because if this is the culture that they're in, at any job.
Which, there was actually, sorry to interrupt you, I keep going, I'm sorry.
But I feel like at any job, right, if the culture's not there and you're getting humiliated and bashed and... blamed for the mistakes of the organization, right, you're not going to put in your A game. And I mean, why should you, right? If the organization doesn't value you, like, you can go out there and give your A game, but there comes a point where you just can't anymore. And that's not saying, I'm not saying the players aren't trying, because I think they are.
Yeah.
But it's harder for you to give your 110% every single game or every single shift when management is bearing down on you 24/7. Like, oh my God, you dropped that ball. Oh my God, you got a 10% tip on that. What were you doing? You didn't upsell the alcohol. Like, I work in the restaurant industry, hence the analogies.
Okay.
But like, even for any job, right? Like, what are you doing? Like, if management is constantly on you, not taking responsibility, right? Everything's your fault.
Yes.
Right? That creates an atmosphere that makes you feel trapped. It makes it harder to be motivated. You get rowdy. You know, get chubby on the sidelines, right? I just blame the coaching staff, I think.
And speaking of all this, something that at least I want to dig into just a little bit. Our friends at the Northwind, our official school newspaper, actually released an opinion piece. Specifically, someone Antonio Anderson. I believe he's a good guy. I don't know him personally. He put his name on the article as the one who wrote it, so of course, be fair to mention him. Good article. I agree with most of it. There was one thing I think we disagreed on, but it does bring into some insight on some more perspectives. Like you mentioned that there would be football players that would go into a morning class exhausted, and they would say because we got. Like they be punished for a bad game. Right,
which is not acceptable under any circumstances.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a level of like holding your players accountable.
Sure.
Because you don't want them to get complicit in losing.
Yeah.
But there's a limit and a difference between we don't want you to get complicit and we're punishing. Right? Because at some point you gotta say, maybe my scheme, maybe my game plan, maybe my recruiting. Like, you gotta take some responsibility.
Like, the first thing I was looking at is the scheme, and the scheme's so bad.
Our scheme is terrible.
Oh.
It's like Michigan from last year, except for you can't run it correctly. I don't think we can even throw a forward pass.
I don't know.
Like, if you took NMU players, made them D1 caliber, and put them in D1, their offense would be infinitely worse than Michigan's.
Sure. But this article here, you know, it breaks it down into three reasons, right? The failure of coaches, how the coaches treat the players. But then the one that we disagree on with the article is how the student body treats the football team.
Right.
And we talked about this before the show. You mentioned, and I kind of get where you're coming from, like the hate from the students, not necessarily directly on the football players, but on the football team.
Yeah.
Is warranted.
Correct.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Okay, I think it's very unfair if you start throwing out names.
Yeah.
If you're like, our quarterback, I think his last name is Horde, is terrible. Or something. Or I don't really know many of our other players except for Jack Sertel. He's like the best player.
Or one of the walk-ons, like I mentioned. Yeah.
So, I don't know many of the players. But let's just say hypothetically I did, and I started calling out specific names.
Yeah.
That to me is problematic.
Yeah.
But if you are across the board talking about the football team's failure to win, right, like I said earlier.
As a team, as an organization.
You're seeing less and less effort, I think, from the organization for better, well, not for better, for worse, because of the pressure. But I don't think it's unfair for the student body to demand better and to be frustrated and to talk crap about the team. That happens with any team at any level. I mean,
in any college,
parents of kids on T-ball teams are like, Jesus, Tommy, hit the ball farther. Come on now.
Yeah.
You lost the game because you couldn't hit it off the tee.
Yeah.
Which, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think you should do that to kids in T-ball.
Not
But the point is that happens at every level, right? It happens at the NFL, it happens in T-ball, right? It happens at every level in every sport.
And especially in college.
Right. And college sports, in my opinion, I love pro sports. And actually, I've started watching pro sports a lot more, given the fact that
the Lions.
Well, A, the Lions are really good, but B, Michigan is
which we'll get to. We'll get to in a few minutes.
Michigan's been mediocre, obviously, this year. Maybe basketball season will be better. But I've been tuning into a lot more pro this year and last year because the Lions are good now than I have in years past. But I think for most people, other than me and my dad who prefer pro, I prefer pro a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm really passionate about the Lions. But I think for a lot of people, especially people that are alums of a school, college football is like their sport. Yeah, I know some colleges it's college hockey, some colleges it's college basketball, right? Duke, Kentucky, UNC. I even think MSU is a college basketball school, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Like some schools are college basketball schools, some are college hockey schools, college football. Heck, John Hopkins is like college lacrosse or something.
Oh, yeah, and they're in the Big Ten.
Right, and they're like the number one team a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Right, so, but the point is, it's still college sports, and college sports, I think, is where most people's passions lie. It's got the highest revenue, stuff like that. And so, we're going to be passionate about these things. Like, we are college students, and we want something to be excited for. And yes, I get it. Hockey is the main sport up here, as it should be, right?
Yes.
We are in a hockey state. We are, 300, it's got to be like 400 something miles from Hockey Town.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 500. I don't know. I don't keep track how many miles it is to get home. It's a ways, but we are in the state that has Hockey Town, right? The Red Wings are one of the most successful teams in the NHL ever. Haven't been successful lately, unfortunately, but one of the most successful teams of all time.
Yeah.
Hockey's been a staple of the state since way before the NHL, right? So yes, of course we're going to be a hockey school. And of course, because they're in D1. But at the same time, if you look across the board, across the entire country, and just remembering the fact that we get students from a lot of different states and demographics, football is like the sport that
in
people
America,
love the most.
yes.
In America. Yeah, I should say in America, because worldwide, that's simply not true.
It's
America,
building, but
right.
slowly.
No,
but
soccer
yeah.
worldwide easily. But in America, football is the sport.
Yes.
So you got a lot of people coming up here that are excited for football. Even though they know the football team is bad, they are excited for football.
Yes.
And I think most people understand that this team is never going to be excellent, right? They don't demand excellence. I don't demand excellence. I'm demanding 3 wins, okay?
That's what I wanted at the beginning of the year. 3 wins.
Right? I'm not expecting a conference championship. But I think it's warranted for the student body to be frustrated, to call out the staff, to a degree call out the players. I don't think it's inherently the players' fault. But at the same time, even if your coaching staff is anemic, right,
Mhm.
some of it does come down to the players. I don't think it's an effort thing. I think it's more of just a results thing. Nobody goes out there and fumbles the ball on purpose. I don't care if you want your coaches fired or not, and I don't care if there's 10,000 morale or negative 10,000 morale. Nobody goes out there on purpose and loses. Well, I should say, with a few exceptions, there's been some scandals.
Yes.
Black Sox of 1919 or whatever. But
I
there's
have
very
been.
few
I
exceptions.
have been tempted. For the record, I did not actually do this. I did. I was thinking of maybe before the Ferris game, find the Ferris State coach and just say, hey, just put 70 on us, please. We want them. We want them gone. Just
Grand
put
Valley
70.
did last year. That didn't do
just don't take off the gas pedal
Right.
to reach 70, and then.
I
did not actually do that,
right.
but it was in the back of my mind.
I don't understand, maybe it's just because you're here to collect a paycheck, but does there come a point in time where you resign for your own pride? I guess that's never really happened in professional sports, but when you're this bad.
There was that high school coach that he was known for never punting. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
There was a high school football coach who, I believe in Florida, I think it was in Florida. He was known for never punting, always going on 4th down, and always doing the onside kick.
Uh-huh.
And his school was always state champions,
really?
Every year, like one state champ, I think 9 out of the last 10 or something. And then he got a job at Providence, a FCS school.
Uh-huh.
And for the first 2 games, which were against Division II opponents, blew them out.
Really?
Yeah, a bad FCS football school who doesn't offer athletic scholarships blew out their opponents' first 2 games, and then they faced their first FCS opponent.
Uh-oh.
And as it turns out, a lot of the Division I coaches, even in FCS level, watch film,
Right.
and they figured something out. They lost all of their games, the remaining games. And he signed a 2-year contract.
Uh-huh.
He resigned at the end of that year.
Which is really respectable, by the way. But I'm just saying, I guess maybe it makes no sense if then you don't get your severance pay and all that.
Yeah.
But, eventually do you not, whether you're the AD or the coach, get together and be look, we both know this isn't working out. For the betterment of the program, but also for the benefit of myself, to go get the next job? Do you just part ways?
Yeah.
I guess that hasn't really happened like ever, except for that one guy. But like, or maybe my better question is, why haven't we pulled the trigger yet?
Is it
Could we
Providence or no?
possibly-
Wait, I'm thinking.
Could we possibly
No,
be
I was-
worse under an interim coach? Do you think so? Could we possibly be worse under an interim coach, given how bad we've been? 'Cause I really don't
Who's the
think so.
interim coach?
I don't think it matters. Could we
The guy from
possibly-
Finlandia?
Well, I think he'd be bad too. But can we possibly be worse than we are?
I
right
mean, we
now?
only have 2 more games.
Well, this should have happened a long time ago, I guess. But hypothetically, could we be any worse? I don't think so. But
I don't know.
this author in the Northwind brought up a good point, and I don't want to harp on the fact that our football team is going to lose 22 straight, 21.
22.
Yeah, 22 straight. So, moving on to the hockey team, you want to touch on them a little bit?
Oh my goodness. I'm just trying
While
to.
you're looking up this
Presbyterian.
coach.
I'm sorry, it wasn't Providence. It was Presbyterian.
Which, by the way, they got really good after he left. But anyway.
Presbyterian. They were known for never punting. He got a job there. I believe he's currently 4-6. They're currently 4-6 right now.
They were good a couple years ago. They
good.
had a good quarterback.
Okay, yeah. So in 2021, destroyed St. Andrews 84-43, and then UFTL 68-3, and then they faced FCS opponents,
And then didn't
Campbell,
win the game.
Dayton, Morehead State, Davis, so on and so on. They lost 72-0, 63-43, 48-30, 70-35. Yeah, they lost the rest of their games.
Right. Yeah. I know.
And
So,
then just
respectable.
and we're
Respectable.
like, yeah, we're
win.
done.
But okay. Hockey team 3-0 loss at home, and then a 6-3 loss at Michigan Tech. I know we were up 3-0, and people got really excited, and then Tech got 6 straight.
yeah.
So we're currently 1-7. But like I said, I cut them a lot more slack because 1, it's the first year of a regime. 2, we only had 1 leftover player, so we basically took scraps of freshmen that hadn't been recruited yet.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some transfers that were kind of late in the portal, right? Because the ones that were in the portal early were taken. So a lot of the top prospects were gone. So they had a lot of slack, and they've been really about culture building and community building. And so I cut them a lot of slack.
Yes. Let's just make sure, like, at least amongst the student body, saying that the NMU's football program should be completely shut down and that the $1 million that was spent on returfing the Superior Dome, which needed to happen. Like, I played flag football on that field, and yeah, and I walked on the new field. It's night and day. I don't think that was. I don't think those arguments are necessarily like correct. I mean, those renovations needed to happen,
Right?
and saying that we need to completely cut the
It's overkill.
football program
It's overkill, and it will never happen. Here's the thing, though. If I'm not mistaken, all that funding came from external sources and was specifically gifted to the athletic program to use as the athletic program saw fit. Correct?
Yes.
So I don't think that money
It was
coming
donor
out of-
money. It was
Right.
donor money. It wasn't taxpayer money.
Well, it wasn't taxpayer money, nor was it student money. It
Correct.
came from donors. The donors wanted to give money directly to athletics. I'm pretty sure it was football boosters and
Yes.
players from the
The
national
former coach of the
championship
Jets.
team. Right, Robert Saleh.
Yeah.
By the way, shouldn't have been fired, but that's a conversation I'm going to have in the air.
Yeah.
Point being, though, right, that money was specifically for athletics. So if it doesn't go there, it goes to another sport. Given the way hockey's playing, I don't know if the money would have done much good there. And, all of our other teams, like, kudos to how they've been doing, but they've never been highly funded, and I don't think a donor would give $1 million to women's soccer. I think they deserve it, by the way. But,
Yes.
they wouldn't get that money. So that money would have just sat out in the ether and gone nowhere. What about our soccer teams, though, speaking of which?
Well, before I get to that, for anyone who is just joining us, this is WUPX 91.5 FM H1 Marquette. This is the Jack and Dom radio show. Men's soccer ends their season 6-8-2, 6 wins, 8 losses, 2 ties, and they finished by beating Parkside 1-0.
Right.
I believe they're not going to have any postseason play. They're not eligible for, I think, the Gilead postseason or NCAA postseason. So I believe their season ends there. A lot better than last year.
Yeah, it's improvement for sure. And I know SVSU and Roosevelt, I believe, tied for the.
Yeah, which Roosevelt,
which is crazy,
I guess
right?
they.
Roosevelt was D3 last year.
No, they were NAIA.
Or sorry, they were below us though, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
The
how
point
that
is, they
works.
were not in the same division that they are.
Correct.
So they
And so
moved
their
up to
men's
some
soccer,
capacity
yeah,
and
they're-
won the conference, which is deeply impressive.
Yes.
So kudos to them for that.
Women's soccer is currently at 11 wins, 3 losses, 2 ties, and play Grand Valley, one of the tough opponents.
One of the best
November
teams.
7th. It is, I believe, it is an away game.
If we can beat that team, I think we win the regular season title.
Yes,
So
I believe the women's
That
soccer
would be
team
really
currently.
cool. It's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, they can control their destiny on
Right,
like,
they
what
control
happens.
their destiny, as you've said. Not quite sure how that's going to go, but really excited for them to play in a game with such pivotal importance, given they won their first regular season title. I think it was in quite a while last year, right? It had been a minute. Might have even been their first ever, but it had definitely been a minute. What about women's basketball and men's basketball?
A really notable player that played in the late 80s, Lisa Jamila Markey, her number 40 jersey got retired the other day. There was an exhibition game against a Wisconsin D3 school. I wasn't at the game, and I can't tell you what the score is because they won't post it on the website. So I believe we won, but I don't know by how much. I believe that game, the exhibition game, was played by that particular school because Lisa Jamila's daughter plays on that team, that D3 school team.
That's really cool, actually.
When they did the number retirement jersey ceremony, they
that's great.
that, yeah.
How about the men's team? They start in 4 days against Maryville, right?
Yes, and also the women's team also starts in 4 days against Thomas More. I believe both are in. They're like in these like college basketball tournament events.
Mini tournaments, yeah.
Yeah, the mini tournaments. So they are at a neutral location. Both are at neutral locations in 4 days.
Both teams should be relatively good this year, too,
yes.
right? They're both pretty talented. I know men's was picked third in the GLIAC, I believe.
And I think the women's as well, although the women's team, McKaylee is no longer part of the team.
So
They're a superstar player.
Right.
She's still here, like, but obviously you play 5 years.
Right, you're done.
You're done. But when you get your master's, that usually takes a total of 6 years.
Correct.
So
she's here for another year.
Yep.
But, I think it'll be interesting to see how
doing some good work with sports and environment, I believe.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
I'm really
I think it's
excited
pretty
to
cool.
see how those teams play. I was impressed with the men's team against MSU.
Yeah, considering that we only lost within 20 by a good D1 school.
Right. And I get it's an exhibition, but it's Tom Izzo. So Tom Izzo is not giving you your B game in an exhibition.
Correct.
It's Izzo. Izzo gives his A game. Like I said, I don't like Michigan State, but I got a ton of respect for Tom Izzo and everything he's done. For both NMU and for MSU.
So Michigan, I see you just put this in the show sheet.
Michigan and Michigan State basketball start tonight.
Okay.
MSU plays Monmouth at 7 right after the show. I believe the Michigan game is at 8. I may be able to catch the tail end of that game.
Instead, Michigan's playing against Cleveland State.
I believe so. I'm double checking that now. Yep, Cleveland State. They are a solid group of 5 team. They've made the tournament in years past. So I guess the question I want to ask you is, I think we both comfortably beat these opponents. I don't think there's much doubt about it.
Correct.
But my question to you is, where do you think we are going to sit in the Big Ten by the end of the year?
I think
trying to
Michigan
be unbiased,
State. I know.
Of course, I'm going to inflate Michigan and you're going to inflate State. But
I don't know. I mean, I think Michigan State will be top 4 in the Big Ten. One of the top 4 teams in the Big Ten.
That's interesting.
I mean, Purdue's still very dangerous. Ohio State's still very dangerous.
Okay.
I don't know who any of the West Coast teams are they any good in basketball?
I'm looking right now.
And I think Michigan State could fit right in that top 4. Definitely get into the tournament, the March Madness tournament.
So let's look at the preseason media poll and see what they have to say, and let's talk about it.
I think Michigan State.
Michigan State, by the way, is picked 5th in the poll, which I think is fair
for Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Okay.
Michigan at 9 seems a little unfair to me.
Okay.
And by the way, Andy Katz, who's one of the biggest bracketology experts, has us at 12, which I think is ridiculously unfair.
Yeah.
Number 1, Purdue. I think that's fine. I'd caution though that Purdue is without Zach Edey and some of the top
I was
players.
I was
Purdue
about to
is
say
not
he's
the Purdue
gone.
of old.
But they're still dangerous though.
I think Indiana will once again underachieve.
Okay.
It's a perennial thing every year. UCLA, I think, is a valid one to have in the top 3. I would not be surprised if 3 and 4 UCLA and Illinois tie for the title or one of them wins it. I think those are my 2 favorites in the Big Ten. State at 5, I think, is perfectly reasonable. I think they'll end up near the top, like the top-ish part, but they'll be middle of the pack. Oregon at 6 is...
How about UCLA? UCLA is ranked number 22 in overall in the country.
I said UCLA is going to be a great team.
Okay.
And them and Illinois are my favorites in the Big Ten. I don't trust Indiana, and Purdue's got a lot of new players. State at 5, I said, is fine. Oregon at 6, I think they are very good at making tournament runs, but I don't think they're going to be a player in the regular season. I think Rutgers will actually be better than Oregon and Michigan State because they've got 2 first-round caliber players on that team. Ohio State at 8, I think is fair, except for I would put Michigan above Ohio State. I'd say Michigan's right around the 7-8 range. I think you underestimate just how good of transfers we got. I think our center is going to be first team All Big Ten, and in my opinion, is the current best player in the Big Ten, given how well he did at FAU. And then I agree with the bottom. You've got Maryland, Iowa, middle of the pack, and then Wisconsin, Nebraska, USC, Washington, Northwestern, Penn State, Minnesota at the bottom. I think all of those are fine. I just think they're sleeping on Michigan. They're sleeping on Rutgers. And I think they are overrating Indiana and slightly by 1 or 2 spots Michigan State.
Okay.
If you look at, I'm going to check the top 25 real quick just to see kind of what they.
Because some basketball games are going on right now as we speak. Purdue is playing right now, and it's not a blowout right now. It's only the first half, 32-25.
So I think
A&M court.
I think
Corpus Christi.
I think when you look at the top 25 polls, things that stand out. Love Alabama, but I don't think they're the number 2 team in the country.
Okay.
Iowa State is certainly not the number 5 team. I think Duke is criminally underrated. I think they should be in the top 4. They are not the number 7 best team. I think Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas A&M are all not as good as advertised.
Okay.
I think IU is not a top 25 team. Nor do I think Cincinnati is. Now they're in the Big 12. I don't think Florida's a top 25 team. I think UCLA will be better than 22. I don't think Ole Miss is a top 25 team. I don't think Arkansas is either. Teams that I think should be ranked that aren't. I think both. I think there's a valid case to be made that MSU should be ranked. Illinois should definitely be ranked. And I think a team like Xavier...
They're receiving votes.
Right, but I think they should be ranked.
Yeah.
A team like Xavier, I think, should be ranked. Michigan's one of the top teams receiving votes, which surprises me. But I wouldn't mind us being ranked. So we'll see. But I think there's a lot of teams in here. And I think we have the same problem with the college football poll this year, especially with FSU, in the sense that you take teams that were good last year, and because of their previous success, you keep them in the top 25.
Which, that
you move them down.
Logically, that makes sense.
It makes sense, but when you're losing your top players, right? Like a good example of this would be like
Florida State.
FSU, right?
Yeah.
Michigan, I would even argue, should have never been ranked as high as we were, right? We lost everybody. FSU lost everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about college basketball. I'm trying to learn more, but I don't know enough to tell you which of those teams are in that boat. But teams like Purdue, where you've lost your star, right? I think it's a little bit tough. But yeah, I think Michigan and Michigan State are both going to be top 6 or 7 in the conference. I don't think either of us are going to win it. I think Michigan's got a shot. I think we will probably be a little bit better than you this year, or about the same.
We'll see. Yeah.
Because I think Tom Izzo is like the better coach historically, but I think he's at the tail end of his career. I'd be surprised if he lasts more than like 3 or 4 years.
30 years. Wow, right. That's a lot.
He's in my opinion, like the third or fourth best coach of all time.
He got his last thing off his bucket list.
Right. So. He's not Coach K, he's not John Wooden, but he's up there with some of the other legends.
Yeah.
But I think he's in an age of basketball now with NIL, with the way the game's evolved, that he is no longer a top dog.
Although
he's still good. I'm not discounting. He's still a top 10 or 20 coach. But
deservingly, I think he deserves another national championship. But just because of how long he's had success with Michigan State,
it's been an unfortunate
like the
run
student
in March.
section in the Breslin
Right,
Center
it's
at
the
Michigan
is
State. It's
zone.
called the is zone
Right,
for a
yes.
reason.
He's had a great run, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate he hasn't got another title. I mean, of course, as a Michigan fan, I don't want him.
I know, and there were a few chances he could have gotten another title,
Right.
but Duke and North Carolina,
Right.
of course, got to get in the way.
Well, I mean, you've had other years where teams like Texas Tech have knocked you out, but the point is, I think Michigan this year will be better because I think we've got a young up and coming coach, and I think those kind of on the tail end. We'll see. It's going to be a good season. I'm actually excited for basketball. I like football, so I think both of us are in that same boat. Speaking of football,
Michigan and Michigan State.
We're going to skip over college. Point is, we both got blown out. It was embarrassing. Michigan had a few calls that went against them that I thought were dumb, and our offensive coordinator looks like he's playing pee-wee ball over there.
And Michigan State did good.
Right, you were up
10-0,
and I was like, oh no.
For the first quarter,
and
it was nothing.
Right?
Nothing else from there.
49 or something like that. It was bad. Michigan wasn't good either. We should have kept it within one score, but we ultimately lost 38-17, I believe. So we're going to get a new offensive coordinator, most definitely. I hope we get a new defensive coordinator. Wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State makes a change, too, at the offensive coordinator position, given how Aiden Childs is looking like a bottom 5 QB out there right now. But we'll see. Let's talk about something good, really good. We won again, and
at Lambeau. We beat those Packers
3 in a row, and guess who got another pick 6? Kirby Joseph.
That was insane.
That was one of the dumbest throws I've ever seen.
Oh, he tried to do a screen pass.
No, he tried to. You're supposed to just chuck it out of bounds, but he barely throws it.
Yeah, he tosses it.
He tosses it right into Kirby Joseph's arms. What a play, by the way. I think without that play, there would have been a good chance of us losing.
Yes.
That turned the game very much in our favor. That and Brandon McManus being Packers kicker and missing.
Yeah. Ross St. Brown does.
That was a great play, great
play, and great.
That was insane.
Touchdown celebration.
Vaselli was great. Oh, another thing I should mention is my SLFP mentor is
what is SLFP?
It's the Student Leader Fellowship program. That part's unimportant.
Okay.
But point is, he works with NMU Donor Relations, that's his position. He's Director of Donor Relations, so he does a lot of stuff with Brock and a lot of donors.
Yeah.
And so him and Brock went to the
yes, he's a Lions
Packers
fan.
and Lions game, and I did not know that Brock is a Lions fan.
Oh, he is, yeah.
And my SLFP mentor is a Packers fan, so he sends me a picture, and because I'm like, good gang, we won again.
Yes.
And he goes, oh yeah, it's me and Dr. Tesman. And I was like, well, he's repping the right side. Much respect. Not that I didn't have respect for him before, but it continues to go up.
Yes.
Every time I see him do things, because we love the Lions, but. Let's close quickly.
I do want to mention. I do want to mention this one thing. We still have a few more minutes left.
Well, I was going to close the power rankings. So.
Well, I know, but we still have a few more minutes. No one's wearing Packers gear. I've not seen
losers.
I've not seen.
Because they got humiliated.
Yeah,
they were like,
to Lambeau and beat them.
You can't play on a field that's not
on your own field. Yeah,
and then they started dropping passes like. They had Butterfingers. We didn't drop a single one. They missed a field goal. They failed on multiple 4th downs. Now, don't get me wrong.
They failed a lot of third downs.
We got massively outplayed in this game. But the key is on 3rd and 4th down, that defense locked up.
Yeah.
And the fact that Aaron Glenn, who's gotten crap from this fan base since day one, myself included, is playing with skeleton practice squad players at defensive end. No Brian Branch. No Malcolm Rodriguez. So you're out a starting safety, a starting linebacker. Carlton Davis limped off the field halfway through, I think, or 3/4 through. So you're down your best safety and arguably your best player on your whole defense right now with Hutchinson out. You're down Hutch. He's been out for a while. So you've got 2 practice squad defensive ends. You're down your best corner, and you're down, in my opinion, your second best linebacker. So you've got holes at every position. And you still held.
And yet,
against a healthy Packers team at Lambeau, which Lambeau is hard to win at, you held. You stopped them on 3rd. You stopped them on 4th. You made some critical plays. You rebounded from the ridiculous Brian Branch ejection.
Yeah, that was.
You went out there
and
said, "Screw you, NFL. We're going to show you the Lions brand of football." And things didn't work. There was some play calling on offense where I was like, "What the heck are we doing?" 2 runs up the middle. I was like, "This is very reminiscent of Michigan football. Very vanilla, very boring." And then you go out there and...
Although there were some running plays where, Jahmyr Gibbs has it, and then he's gone.
Right.
He's just gone.
Right.
He's there, and he's gone.
There are points in the game where you can't run up the middle, 3 times in a row, 2 times in a row. Questionable play calls. But They did it when it mattered the most. I think Jared Goff has positioned himself as an MVP favorite.
Yes.
Now, do I think it's going to go to Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen, Lamar? I do. But I think it's because Goff is criminally underrated because the statistics aren't there. Right? But he doesn't have to throw the ball because he's so efficient when he does it that he only has to throw, 16 passes or something absurd.
And he makes it most of the time,
And he completes
gets it down.
80%. They've got a ridiculous completion percentage. They've
Yes.
got more
The
touchdowns.
highest in the NFL.
Well, they've got more touchdowns than incompletions in their last 6 or 7 games. How?
I've never seen that before.
That's crazy.
Yes.
I don't
it
care
is.
who it is. Mahomes can't do that. Lamar can't do that. I don't even think Tom Brady could do that. Maybe in
And
this
Tom
offense.
Brady is praising.
Right, Tom Brady
him,
thinks our offense is good. That's high
Jared
praise.
Goff.
Maybe in this offense, Tom Brady could do it. But not a lot of guys could. And all credit due to Jared Goff because, in my opinion, other than Dan Campbell, Jared Goff has been, other than Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes.
Yeah.
Close third place, and the turnaround of this team is Jared Goff.
Yes.
He
So
deserves all the credit in the world for what he's done.
going into power rankings, I have number 5 Steelers, number 4 Commanders.
Let's talk through them unless you don't want it.
Oh, sure.
I can talk to each one. I don't think the Steelers are a top 5 team. I think their defense is elite. I think their offense is better. But I think they're going to get exposed against teams like the Ravens and the Bills. I don't think they might be 6 or 7, but I don't think right now they are worthy of a top 5 spot.
Well, I think the Steelers number 5 mainly because compared to the Vikings and Eagles, which have the same record, the Steelers have a higher point differential.
I would agree, but they've also had a much easier schedule in a division
and
that has been
three-game winning
lackluster.
streak.
Correct, that too. So I don't.
So it's like
disagree, but
I think they're squeaking in number 5.
That's
I don't
fine.
think they're
That's
a solid number 5.
that's fair.
I have the Commanders at number 4.
I will also disagree here, and here's why. When you escape from MetLife Stadium, I think it is, right? The Giant Stadium, MetLife
Yes.
Stadium.
And the Jets.
With
too.
a 5-point win against a Daniel Jones Giants team that really, I would argue, should have won that game. And that's coming a week off of you had to get a Hail Mary to beat the Bears, who, by the way, just got blown out 29-9 by my Cardinals, which, no offense to my Cardinals, but we're as mid teams come.
Yeah.
For now, I don't know if that's going to last. I hope we get better. But we're mid, right? We're 5-4. So the fact that you had to get a Hail Mary against the Bears and you won by less than a touchdown against the Daniel Jones Giants, in my opinion, does not warrant a top 5 spot. Also, the fact that you're in one of the easiest divisions in football, now that Dallas is terrible.
Well,
Now,
maybe
do
they'll
I think
fall.
they built a culture? And do I think they're going to be a contender? Do I think they're going to win that division? You bet I do.
Mhm.
But top 5, I don't know.
Well, they might fall. We'll see what happens. I have number 3, the Bills.
See, we agree on this. Hottest team in the AFC right now. I know the Chiefs are higher, and that's because they're undefeated.
87-point
The
differential.
Bills look great.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's playing at MVP caliber level. Even without Stephon Diggs, right, they've looked good.
Yeah.
Keon Coleman and some other guys, Dalton Kincaid, have stepped up in that offense. That defense is always great. Sean McDermott, one of the best coaches in the league. So I very much agree with that one, as I agree with number 2.
Number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right. Now, here's the thing. As soon as they lose, they're dropping like flies. They will very much drop out of they might even drop out of my top 5. They don't look good. But whether it's the refs being on their payroll, whether it's Mahomes, or whether it's that defense, they always somehow escape with
They're
it.
squeaking away with wins. That's why their point differential is
against
50.
bad teams, too.
Yeah.
And I think it's the magic of Andy Reid. I think it's that good defense, and I do think they've got some flags in their favor. I don't think they paid off the refs or anything. Come on, that's a pretty stupid excuse.
Yeah.
But they've got some kind of magic over there. I don't know what it is. Please give the Lions that magic.
And I have it number 1 with a 110-point differential, leading in the NFL, the Detroit Lions.
And here's the even better thing. Texans this week will be a tough game, but given they just lost to the Jets, I have confidence in this team.
Now,
and who's after the Texans? Is it the Colts?
I don't know.
You'll have to double check me on that.
On what exactly?
The next Lions games.
Oh.
Are the Texans who just lost to the Jets and did not look good?
Yes, the Texans and Jaguars. And then Colts.
Jaguars? It's Texans,
so it's
Jaguars,
at Texans, here, home at Jaguars, and then at Colts.
So here's my opinion on those 3 games.
Win-win-win.
Texans are, yes. Texans will be tough because they're the Texans that have got C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
But C.J. Stroud has looked very bad in the last couple games. So if we can shut down C.J. Stroud, I'll be shocked that we don't go 3-0. So you're telling me going into week 12 Your Detroit Lions are 10-1.
Yes.
And I, honest to God, think
we're favored to win the rest of the games of the year.
Correct.
Which is insane.
Now, I think we'll drop a few like on Thanksgiving like we do every year.
Yeah,
and, we'll probably drop
it's hard to go 17-0.
We'll drop one to the Vikings in Green Bay, and even the Bills or Niners will beat us.
Yeah.
But point is, you're telling me that barring a C.J. Stroud miracle game, because I think we're way better than them on paper.
Yes.
Barring a C.J. Stroud miracle game, you are going to go 10-1 to start the season. That's spectacular. And given that, let's say hypothetically, Green Bay and the Vikings still both go undefeated, you're still sitting a game above the division, I believe, above the Vikings, plus a game in hand. And I do think the Vikings will drop one because they look bad against the Colts. So realistically, by week 11, you're going to be sitting, or week 12, you're going to be sitting at 10-1, 2 games up in the division with a tiebreaker over both teams in the best division in football. Sign me up.
Yep.
Real quick to close, I had the Ravens at 5. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are a machine. I think if anybody beats the Chiefs this year, it's going to be them. Bills are higher because they're playing good, and they beat the Ravens, I believe, right? Or no, Ravens beat them, right? Either way.
I don't know.
Ravens are a machine, and they're only going to keep going up. And I have the Eagles at 4. They look bad against Jacksonville, but I think they're going to win that. They got a good chance of winning that division, and Jalen Hurts is a weapon, as is Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, that's it for me. Go Lions, right?
Go Lions. All right. Well, this was the WPX 91.5 FM HUM Marquette. This was the Jack and Dom radio show. Please stay safe out there. I know there is some cases of woofing cough out there. So please stay safe out there. And we will see you guys next week.